I want to point out that I had the idea for this segment before the Bills decided to fire Sean McDermott. And by the way, they've made another interesting move and promoted Brandon Beane to president. Now, here's my question.
I know exactly what's happening.
Was this a loser promotion where they're like, we're going to pretend to give you a better title, maybe kick you a few extra bucks, but we really want you the hell out of the way so you have no say in football decisions because you're not good at this? Or is it a real promotion where they're like, we're actually going to give you the final say on everything now, which feels like a massive mistake given that people talk throughout the playoffs of, do the Bills have enough offensive options?
Okay, I'm with you there. Your best receivers, go through the names. You be like, all right, Brandon Cooks was your best target. Keon Coleman has not lived up. You have all these limited good little options, but nothing that you're just like, man, what a George Pickens move that was.
Right.
And Amari Cooper, you were kind of hoping, right? But it didn't quite work out because he was aging out. I think this is a get out of the way kind of thing.
All right.
It's in title only. Now, like Chris Young moved to president of baseball operations. I think that's a real one. Him and Ross Fenstermaker with the Rangers are really working together on their roles and those things. This one, I think, is we're going to hire somebody else in the GM spot. They're going to be in charge of the scouting and all these other things that are technically your job. You get to go glad hand. You get to go shake hands, kiss babies, and you get to smooze because that's what you're good at.
What was that?
Schmooze.
Okay.
Smooze.
Yeah. That other one sounds...
Both of them are words, you're saying, is what you're telling me.
No, that other one
Neither
sounds
one of
like
them
it'll get you
words.
sent to jail.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So, yeah, I think this is definitely one of those where you're saying we gotta add somebody else to the mix because we need fresh ideas. We're going to pair that person with the next head coach. They're going to work together on what they want to build this team as, but we like having you around, so we're going to give you the title of this. For direction purposes.
Because the Bills need another direction, right?
Yes.
All right. My contention, or I will start here, and I'm sure a version of this will get clipped, and they'll be like, 105.3, the fan always defends the Cowboys. Listen to our show. All right. I don't think the Bills of the last 30 years are really that different from the Cowboys. And then I've seen a couple of different things of... Yeah, but the Bills are always in the playoffs and they win. Do they? They're in the playoffs now. But let's take a look at the Bills of the last 30 years versus the Cowboys of the last 30 years. And the reason why I bring this up, and I understand the main contention is probably going to be, is because the Cowboys are the most popular thing in all of sports across the entire globe. And they probably move the needle much, and that's probably why they get the most crap. I get that. But take a look at the Bills. The Bills made it to 4 straight Super Bowls, very famously, from 1990 to 1993. Since then, they've been a pretty winning organization, right? Mm-hmm. Have they? Because let's take a look at the numbers. In that time, since their last Super Bowl appearance, they have had 7 general managers. Since Marv Levy left the team, they have had 8 coaches. You know how many of those have had a winning record? 2. And you just got rid of the second one. Sean McDermott and Wade Phillips. And that's it. All right? Okay, I get it. Here's the next contention. Yeah, but they're always successful in the playoffs. Are they? Because they have made it to all of 2 AFC championship games. And then last weekend, not yesterday, but the weekend before, they just got their first road playoff win in 33 years. Why do the Bills not get anywhere near dunked on by national media, local media, although to be fair, I don't know their local media market as much, or their fan base, when what they have done in the last 30 years is make it to 2 AFC championship games, despite having a quarterback that I feel like most everyone on the planet would objectively agree is better than Dak Prescott, and they hadn't won a playoff game on the road in 33 years. This Bills franchise hasn't done jack S for 3 decades, yet I don't feel like at the beginning of every year everyone's like, well, they're the Bills, but they'll find a way to bill it.
I got a lot of different feelings here. On the Cowboys front, you'd love to get to an NFC Championship game, right?
Sure.
That's been your goal.
Step one.
Can we just get there? Well, and then we can start discussing other things if we can just get there. They've been there, so I think that's one of the reasons. I think another reason, Kevin, is a lot of the national media does look at Josh Allen and just goes, he's good enough to get you there every year. He's good enough to get you to this spot. The team isn't good enough around him. And so I think Josh Allen does get a lot of love. Now, I think Josh Allen also makes the big mistakes that end up costing you often. I still can't. I wish we could go back and have that extended game against Kansas City just to see, because, again, we got cheated as fans because we could have gotten more football out of that. It was so much fun. But since then, is he 0-3 in overtime games since then?
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous like that. Maybe even 0-4. So there is this, like, they believe in the quarterback. The other thing, too, is, and because you're right, national media does not take a hard enough swing at them. Local media for them, I've heard a couple of hits here and there with Bean hopping on radio and yelling at guys for being like, you guys saying we don't give him receivers? And he's like,
to be fair, he did just get promoted, so maybe he won.
Yeah, maybe he did win. You really do need to watch Holiday Touchdown, Buffalo Bills story, Kevin, to really understand the passion that fan base has for their football team.
Okay.
It really does. Like, you see it. They love their football team. It is their opportunity every Sunday in the coldest weather on the planet, I feel like, a lot of time. Well, maybe not, because there's further north and south. But it is super cold and snowy. And every Sunday, all those fans are like, we get to go hang out together and watch a Bills game. I think it's less about the Bills and more about their community than anything else. And they just don't want to be, hating fans that just trash their team. They're like, we don't care. We'll just support you guys. We love you.
Because they can't believe they get a football team.
Pretty much.
In such a small market. Whereas,
it's the second smallest market in all of football.
Is Green Bay
Green Bay's the smaller market. The other two around it, New Orleans and Jacksonville. Those are the four smallest markets and media markets in all of football. So, yes, the media is probably just as tied into it, for one, but they're also small towns where it's a sense of community more than it is in DFW.
It's funny that you say that, because I think about it with the Mavericks when there were, like, people thought they might move the team to Las Vegas. What did everybody go? Yeah, then we'll just get a new team. Like, that's the thing. I'm sure in Buffalo, they're not ever like, oh my God, if Buffalo moved to Toronto, we're definitely getting another team. I don't think that they feel that way at all. And I did just see somebody say they've been to 2 more championship games. Conference championship games, which is the game to get you into the real championship game. And it's interesting how that's the line of demarcation. Is that the line of demarcation just because the Cowboys haven't been to that game? Shouldn't the line of demarcation be winning a Super Bowl, or at the very least making it to the Super Bowl? Because if that's the case, Buffalo hasn't done that either.
From the 4-6-9, everybody feels sorry for them because they haven't won. They lost those 4 Super Bowls. Do you feel like people are just like, oh, man, don't kick them too hard?
Do you think if Norwood would have made it, then they would have been like, at least you got that one?
Yeah, you talked a lot of trash after you won it, too. So, yeah, we kind of don't like you because of that. I think that probably might have something. The lovable loser is a real thing in sports, man.
Do you ever wonder about the alternate sports timeline where Norwood makes that kick and they go into the next season as the defending champions? Like, are they able to beat Washington the next year? And, like, does that change anything? I know we'll never be able to figure that out.
Thanks to Marvel, all I think about is alternate timelines.
Okay.
That's the only thing on my mind is what happened in this time.
Okay.
That's kind of like the Chicago blip that I was talking about on Friday. We're still stuck in that time loop, Kevin.
And then
thanks to the Cubs.
From the 940. Oh, yeah, you were supposed to send me more info about that. Jim Kelly was probably their best quarterback, and all they had after that was Ryan Fitzpatrick until Josh Allen. But again, that goes to the ineptness genius of the organization. And somebody says, well, nobody goes around and says this is the Bills' year. Yes, they do. The Bills are the Cowboys of the late 1960s. Do you remember that Cowboys team? I know you weren't born yet. But the idea was the Dallas Cowboys were always next year's champions. And it feels like that's the Buffalo Bills. They're always next year's champions. I feel like they get hyped to the moon, even though we end up in this exact same scenario every single time, where not only have they not won a Super Bowl, they haven't even been to the Super Bowl, and only twice in 30 years have they been in the game get to the Super Bowl. And I get it. That's two more than the Cowboys. And my point is not to defend the Cowboys organization. My point is I think there should be more teams in that same boat as the Cowboys that get dunked on pretty consistently. And I think Buffalo is a great example. What did they do today? Fired one of their two winning coaches over the last 30 years and promote the GM that everybody seems to think has done a crap job with this roster. What the hell kind of sense does that make?
Yeah, I think, Kevin, kind of looking back since the Sammy Watkins draft was a bust. All right? There was an E.J. Manuel draft in there as well. Since 16, they've drafted better. They started doing something better in the draft where they were able to, this is where I say, I think they've relied heavily on the talent and the draft picks that they had since then.
Can I ask you a question about that?
That's been a big factor for them being in position to be at the top of their division every year.
This is what I always wonder. Have they drafted that much better, or has Josh Allen made similarly mediocre draft picks look better?
Ed Oliver?
Well, offensively.
Shaq Lawson's pretty good. Yeah. Tre'Davious White's been pretty. They've had some good draft picks. They've had better drafts.
Sure.
And what I'm saying is
3 and 9
What I'm saying is in this grand scheme of where they are, I think talent has gotten them there. And then they've been lacking that next thing to get them over the hump. And it might just be John Gruden that could put them in that place, Kevin. So if he wants to take on that Bills job.
You think John Gruden would make a deal, right, where the NFL is like, you're going to be this head coach for Buffalo, but you have to sign paperwork right now saying you drop your lawsuit and you will never relitigate the NFL in any form or fashion.
Sounds great. This is a guy right here that can really, that's exactly what he would do. Where do I sign?
Okay.
You know what I think? XY banana.
Man, I would have loved to see John Gruden run the actual draft where we had to expand the first round out to like 200 players because every person he talked to is like, this is a first rounder right here.